Bom dia, queridos companheiros. É com muita alegria que a gente começa mais um estudo na nossa sala virtual do Conscious Living Spirit School. Muita alegria, as pessoas que estão chegando, sejam todos muito bem-vindos. Estou vendo que a Vivi já chegou. Bom dia a todos. Nesse domingo que espero que a paz de Jesus esteja no nosso lar, nos acolhendo e nos amparando na manhã de hoje. Então, nós vamos começar, como sempre, com uma leitura do nosso livro, Our Daily Bread, esse livro que a gente... I'm so sorry, I'm speaking in Portuguese, I'm just realizing that. This book is Our Daily Bread, okay? We are going to read the message. This book is psychographic by Francisco Cândido Xavier, by the Spirit Emmanuel. And we chose today the lesson number 21, Deep Water. And it says, "And when he had finished his speaking, he said to Simon, 'Go out into deep water and cast your net in order to fish.'" That is in the Gospel of Luke. This verse leads us to think about our companions in struggle who feel forsaken in the human experience. A disquieting sensation of loneliness cuts them to the heart. They weep from longing and pain, renewing their affliction over and over. They believe the fate has reserved the cup of unending bitterness for them. They sorrowfully recall the days of childhood and youth, and the hopes that have been dashed to pieces in the conflict of the world. At every moment, they inwardly experience the vague vapor of memories that increase their feelings of emptiness. The fact is, all mortal experience these periods of anguish. If someone has not yet experienced them on a particular stretch of the road, their turn will come nevertheless, because generally speaking, nearly every spirit departs the flesh when the cold sign of the winter increases around it. So, when your time of difficulties arrive, assure yourself that the days for fishing in deep water have come to your soul, and that is the time to search for true values without the incentive of certain illusions of the material experience. If you find yourself alone, if you feel forsaken, remember that beyond the grave, there are friends watching over you and a loving waiting for you. The Father never forsakes his children. Therefore, if you find yourself without family ties, without true friends on the transitory landscape of the planet, it's because Jesus has sent you into deep waters of life in order for you to test your acquisition with hard lessons. I thought that message was so beautiful because we definitely have been, most of us have been in deep water these days, knowing that we're never alone and Jesus is always with us, witness our suffering and supporting us to overcome and to learn the lessons that is necessary for us. Okay, so we have our friend Susanna. Good morning, Susanna, Vivi, and all the others that are watching. So we start now with our prayer. So I invite everybody to join us and elevate our thoughts and pray for our Father, that is source of immense source of love and support or mercifulness. We pray for Jesus to be with us, the good spirits that support all of us in this morning, asking us to have opportunity to learn a little more. So we ask the support, the light of Jesus to enter our home, help us to open the window of our mind, the door of our heart. So all the lessons we are going to listen this morning can truly empower our being so we can forsake in the moments in the deep water a little stronger with more courage, making every lesson and a good experience for evolution of our soul. Support all of us while we are listening to the lecture that is going to be presented our dear friend Andreia. So we ask the good spirit to support her, give her the tranquility so she can share her studies with a lot of joy from her heart to our heart. So in the name of Jesus that we pray, so be it. So now, dear friends, good morning, everyone. We invite our dear friend Andreia to take your word and you share your study with us. Thank you, Andreia.
Thank you, Biga. Good morning, everyone. It is really great to be here with you guys this morning. We are very excited to be sharing some of the reflections that we brought here this morning because we are going to be presenting two books that have already been translated and are available for our further understanding about the topic that we are about to present, which is spiritual interventions. Before we get into our study, I was watching a crime scene show on television. I'm really hooked on that to try to understand how the mind operates and what lies behind each action that brings about so much suffering. It's actually about the person who committed a crime and their process of understanding why they did what they did and their process for redemption. So it's really cool. But basically, what happened was this little girl, she was playing on the sidewalk. She was hopping and twirling, and she had on a beautiful white dress. Across the street, there was a man who was sitting there, not doing anything, and he noticed the scene, and he was very enchanted with the genuinely innocent image before him. He noticed that a car approached, and the car stopped, and the driver started speaking to the little girl. Something, he said, the guy across the street, he said, really caught my attention, and I don't know why it caught my attention, but it did. And so he continued to watch this scene unfolding before him. The little girl started smiling, conversing back with the driver, and before he knew it, she actually got into the car. Compelled by something that drove him out of the ordinary, he decided to follow the car. Mind you, this is in the 70s, so there were no cell phones. There was nothing available for him to communicate with the police. But he followed because he noticed something was odd. When they arrived at the destination, he saw the grown man get out of the car, open the door for the little girl, take her hand, and walk with her into his home. That's when the other guy who was observing it called the police. When the police got there, they found the little girl almost lifeless. She was able to be taken to the hospital and her life was saved. Something like this caught my attention. What is it about that scene that got the guy's attention? I mean, he wasn't doing anything. What was the driving force that was so strong that made him follow the car? Something inside of him said that it was actually kind of odd. Another situation that played out recently happened in Orlando. And I know this because I know the person to whom it happened. She worked at a restaurant, and as a manager, waitress, she went on to serve a table. Everybody had a mask on, as it's mandated right now, until they start eating. And it was a family of a man, a woman, and 2 kids. The little girl, the mother, and the father were able to order something to eat. The little boy said that he wasn't hungry, but she noticed something in his eyes, and something about her said, there is something wrong here. So she decided to write on a piece of paper, do you need help? And she stood at a position where she could show the piece of paper to the little boy. She did that a few times. He would look at her, but she could see fear in his eyes until finally he had the courage to say, Yes, like this. Very subtle, very subtle. So she called the police. And when the police arrived and they removed the mask, they noticed lots of bruising on his face. And when they pulled up his sleeve, they noticed that he was beat up. The level of torture that this little boy endured at the house was unbelievable. This is something that I'm bringing to you guys because spiritual interventions can happen in two ways. It can be a negative one and it can be a positive one. When we open the Spirit's book, we are going to learn on chapter 9 specifically that there is an entire chapter filled with questions and answers about this very topic, the intervention of spirits in the corporeal world. And it is important for us to further our understanding about what this entails. Because at a time where we are isolated at home, where the pandemic is taking its toll emotionally, spiritually, and physically, we need to understand how is it that this intervention, this interaction actually occurs from the spirit plane to the corporeal one and vice versa. So here's some of the items that we can actually find in the Spirit's book, and I invite you to really probe deep in understanding this. We are going to find the reading of our thoughts by spirits, the concealed influence of spirits on our thoughts and actions. We are going to learn about the affection of spirits for certain individuals, guardian angels, or known as protector, familiar, and sympathetic spirits, and the list goes on. It's actually much larger than what you are seeing on the screen right now. And this is what we wanted to talk about today. Joanna de Ângelis is going to tell us in the book, A Light in the Darkness, that the spirit interferences taking place during the physical existence of individuals evolving in the material plane is a delicate chapter of human behavior. Of course, we know Joanna de Ângelis as this psychotherapist of our soul. She brings a lot of psychological content to assist us. And she's going to say that somehow it's something that is ignored, even though the interference, this spiritual interference, have always systematically occurred during our lives, either due to the lack of knowledge, based on countless cases that we can affirm that it happens. It's very numerous, and a lot of people don't even know that it exists. Some of the crimes that we see happening, the passion crimes that we see happening, why is it that it occurred? And of course, we are not going to blame the spirits for everything that happens to us, but we need to understand the law of affinity, the law of attunement. She's going to tell us that the spirit interferences are so frequent that we can say that discarnate spirits is actually part in responsibility for a great deal of what happens to human beings, whether a positive or a negative interference. So here we're going to bring a question that is very well known to a lot of people from the Spirit's book, which is question 459. Do spirits have any influence on our thoughts and actions? And the benevolent spirits will tell Allan Kardec that the influence on us in this regard is greater than we suppose, for very frequently it is they who guide us. And I was thinking about our friend John, who is connected right now. Good morning, everyone. I can see the names here, talking about how important it is for more people to have an understanding of what Spiritism teaches us and show us, because it is quite empowering when we think about the aspect that we are in control of what happens to us. And so we get out of this position of being called victims, that things that are happening to us, we have really no control of. Some of the things we don't, you're correct. But some of the things, a lot of the things that happen, if we evaluate the content of our mind, thoughts, hearts, we are going to find that our actions could have been prevented if we were a bit more vigilant about the things that happen to us. So Joanna de Ângelis is going to say, Spirit interferences do not always manifest as unusual, clear-cut spirit subjugation-like events. It's not like that. She said that they unfold subtly. We don't even notice, invading our mental realm, inciting in that manner often the feelings of pessimism, of sadness, of lack of worth, of slander, gossip, and vulgar comments that generate what she will call a sickly psychosphere, spiritual psychosphere, suitable for the interference of spirits who basically vibrate in the very same manner. This is how sometimes we will see somebody with a lack of self-worth, so deep into that feeling that thoughts about suicide are very frequent and often fed on by the enemies that are surrounding that person. When we see somebody in pessimistic ideas, we will find that sometimes those actions are actually empowered, or better yet, made stronger by the thoughts that are suggested, by the influence of spirits who basically resonate in the same manner. And so we will see people reacting into society, spreading to the masses this idea of pessimism, which actually affects a great number of people. So she will say, if we are, Joanna de Ângelis, she will say, if we are to remain uninformed about these psychical exchanges and we are not vigilant, we will end up suffering these harmful effects that the spirit interferences seek, basically to steal our vitality, because we actually get drawn out, our energies get drawn out and impose upon us not always healthful influences that actually affects our body and empowers us. So let me give you an idea about this. A long time ago, I was participating at a spiritist center, and it's not conscious living, so nobody tried to figure out who it is because it wasn't there. But I remember my very first lesson about the impact of the spiritual positive influence and wholesome energies that the spiritist center provides to someone who is suffering the attack or the persistence of spirits in the low order type of spirits in their lives. I remember this young lady. She would come in, she would be extremely skinny in a very sickly way. She had bags under her eyes, and it was not about lack of sleep or anything. She was pale and she was gloomy. It's as if you looked at her, you could see a cloud, a dark cloud enveloping her. And one could notice that she was in need of spiritual nutrients, if we want to call it that way. She started participating in the meetings. She started participating, receiving the passes, the healing energies that the Spiritist Center provided. And before we knew it, in about 3 to 4 months, this young lady blossomed. She became healthier. It seemed as if her vitality came back. And we could basically make a comparison about this. If we have a plant, a tiny little fragile plant, that is not receiving enough light, that is not receiving wholesome energies, nutrients, the water that is going to make it grow and be stronger, it's going to be pretty much ill, sickly. On the other hand, if we take that plant and we give it the care that it needs, it blossoms. David walked and is watching this, he knows exactly what we're talking about. So symbolically speaking, we are like plants. We need the light that actually is going to illuminate our consciousness. We need the nutrients that could be, symbolically speaking, compared to the healing energies that the Spiritist Center offers. The enlightened reading that the spirits or the Spiritist books provide us with. The meditation, being surrounded by people that is going to encourage us to grow. And on that manner, modifying our thought, our mental realm, so that these spiritual interferences will not find a place to proliferate, to grow. So our emotional identity, Joanna de Ângelis will say, produces emissions that connects us with other entities in identical vibrational rate. And we are not just talking about to discarnate spirits, we're talking about even people, right? This is something that we need to address. And this is where Spiritism is so empowering, because it equips us with information so that as travelers in this present reincarnation, we have the amazing tools that is going to help us on a journey along the way while incarnated on this planet. And for this, Joanna de Ângelis will say that we need to understand the law of attunement. It is the law that, according to her, to which like attracts like. Therefore, the best therapy to treat severe negative problems caused by spiritual interferences is having an upright conduct. Let us be sure that she's not saying that you need to be perfect. It is in seeking to have an upright conduct. And she finalizes in stating, you choose the psychic realm in which you live and pursue self-realization. We choose. It is our choice. And so she will say that we should not neglect the nature of our thoughts, of our aspirations. This is why we are told to know ourselves, understand whom we are. If all of a sudden we are overpowered, overcome with a wave of sadness, of anxiety, with no apparent reason, we will study that and understand that maybe, just maybe, it's not something that I should be in tune with, that I can modify it. I can change the station and change the frequency in which I am in. Basically, sometimes in the lack of vigilance, we fall into those traps, and it is something that is actually quite dangerous. And it's not to say that anybody should be scared, but to the contrary, that we should be strong in realizing that we have the power, because we are the ones who are going to choose the type of psychical realm in which we live and pursue self-realization. She will tell us to study our thoughts and our minds. She says that all that originates in the mind should be disciplined. We should be accustomed to try to seek the type of upright conduct that she mentions in this beautiful book. And so in this manner, we are going to finally find the effect of reciprocity, the type of beings that we are going to attract to ourselves. Because in her words, we breathe the atmosphere saturated by our own psyche, and we live according to the radiation, to our emanations, to the rays that we throw out because of our thoughts. So she will say, we can either ascend to the higher planes where we will be nourished by healthy energies, or we can choose to descend lower and be in contact with those who are going to intoxicate us, basically, because of their own vibration, because of their own psychic atmosphere. This is really empowering, right? To be able to choose the psychical realm in which we live and pursue self-realization, when we understand this phrase and bring it into our daily lives, we are going to find that there is no more space for victimization. And I can't blame anyone else for what is happening to me at this time. But then we come to a question. How do we detect the negative or positive spiritual interferences? And this is what Allan Kardec basically asked the benevolent spirits, is how can we tell if a suggested thought that comes to our mind, since we're talking about mental realm, is from a good or an evil spirit? And the spirits will tell Allan Kardec, study the matter. Good spirits give only good advice. It is your responsibility to make the distinction. And here's the other aspect of basically being in control. in power of what is happening. We have a responsibility to be able to discern between one and the other. Of course, what merit would we have if we didn't have that responsibility to be able to basically discern between what is right and what is wrong? And a lot of people will say, well, Andreia, it's kind of a hard thing to understand. Well, is it? We learned that the divine laws are written in our conscious, and as we evolve and as we progress and as we seek to learn and ascend, we are going to understand and feel that inclination when something that we are about to do or say is not correct. We have that. Unfortunately, sometimes we act so much on impulse. We react to things as opposed to acting to certain situations that before we know it, the things that we still need to work on comes out quickly, right? And all of a sudden we say, my God, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I said that. Would have been something that was actually an advice from an evil spirit, from a low order spirit. Well, that's not to say. Maybe it's basically all of the things that we need to work on about ourselves. Intolerance, impatience, the lack of trying to understand someone. So we need to study the nature of the messages that come to us and try to understand it a little bit further. Can people avoid the influence of spirits who incite them evil, who incite them to do bad things, negative things? And they will say yes, because they only attach themselves to those who solicit them with their desires or attract them with their thoughts. And this is something else that comes to us, and we are blown away by the content of the Spirit's book and how important it is to understand this, because Joanna de Ângelis will say that the spirit interferences implant themselves very skillfully and almost naturally. So the ideas that are being transmitted appear to belong to us. It appears to be our own in our mental realm, as that spiritual interference little by little take control of the rational mind. This is Joanna de Ângelis' wording, of the rational mind, to the point where it becomes difficult to be able to discern between one of the things or the other, or to be able to break free from this type of influence from the spirits, this incitement from them for us to do the negative thing. And this is why it's so important for us to understand how it all operates. She will say that all of the adverse actions or events that happen is organized in the lower realms, in the spirit zone, where the unhappy spirits basically congregate and come together to either promote harassment, suffering, to try to condemn. And so when we look at some of the things that are happening in our world, we are going to see that perhaps the interference is quite strong for the invigilant mind, for those that resonate in the very same way. She will talk about feelings such as envy, feeling of revenge, prejudice. And so she will say that this type of ill or sickly desire is actually potentialized, and actually a vast number of discarnate spirits get involved in human behavior because they feel attracted to those type of feelings that actually come about. So she will say, in modern society, the extreme violent situations that is taking hold of our current society. So are things out of control? Have we lost control of all things? Well, not necessarily. If we have the responsibility to try to seek inside our inner impulses the solutions to try to control all of that, we are going to find that we can actually partake collectively for the betterment of our world, attracting the interference, or better yet, feeling the interference of noble spirits. And why am I saying this? Well, I decided to bring here a chapter from the book Sex and Destiny. It's by Andreia Lewis in the series Life in the Spirit World, in which there is a very dramatic situation about to unfold to the character in the book called Marita. Marita is in imminent danger. And Andreia Lewis states that he was looking for someone to try to assist him with the situation that was about to unfold. He said, I had decided on a way to protect Marita, maybe contact an incarnate friend who was connected to the group, friendly group that Marita belonged in. He said, I had to block the consummation of the plan that was about to unleash, the situation that was about to unleash, because he wanted to help her. He wanted to avoid what was about to take place. And I'm not gonna tell you because I want you to read the book. It's an amazing book. And Andreia Lewis continues. Let's remember that Andreia Lewis is a spirit, a discarnate spirit in the spirit plane, and he is trying to seek the assistance of an incarnate person, somebody in the flesh, somebody who had already reincarnated. So he said, I wandered from place to place, from her office to the shop, to the bank, from the bank to her apartment, and I found no one extending spiritual antenna capable of helping me. I found no one praying, no one concerned about the matter. Everywhere I looked, I saw thoughts saturated with sex, money, portraying scenes of pleasure and profits to the exclusion of everything else. Everybody's mind was basically controlled, consummated with things that were not of the soul. This is very profound, very, very, very profound. When we read something like this, we are going to find that the benevolent spirits will look for us, to assist them often, to try to avoid a crime from happening, to try to avoid a deplorable situation from coming about. And this is something that brings to me, personally speaking, an honor to be feeling like the benevolent spirits could count on me, could count on you to do something good, to have the antenna so connected with the Wi-Fi, the spiritual Wi-Fi, so strong that we would be able to pick up on the subtle information that the benevolent spirits bring to us and be there, actually basically being part of something positive in the world. So what is the solution for all of this, right? Because we're talking about what is the solution? Well, basically, Joanna de Ângelis will say that when we examine Jesus's message, we understand his teachings. We bring it as a psychotherapist of the soul. We're talking about Jesus here. She's going to say that we will always find love as the solution that will inspire noble thoughts, that will basically allow for actions that will lead to a happy and healthy life. So she will say that love is the one factor that is going to emit high frequency waves that promote nonviolence, that promotes peace, that promote wholesome ideas. This is something that we need to talk about. When we study the aspect of immortality, when we study about the aspect of mediumship, this is something that we need to talk about because we are all mediums to one degree or the other. We can open the medium's book and understand that even further. Love is going to be the one factor that is going to promote the law of attunement. So what does the law of attunement propose? It basically proposes the moral transformation of the human being, our moral transformation, so that we can have a peaceful, a healthy, a wholesome type of lifestyle while incarnated here. And not only here, when we actually go to the spirit plane. Let's remember this. Whatever our desires, whatever our thoughts, whatever our feelings today, if we should discarnate today, it's going to still be here in the spirit plane. I'm going to continue being the same Andreia I am today if I don't change when I arrive back home in the spirit plane with my bags packed. What am I going to be like as a spirit? And this is why it's important for us to read and understand. It is not by chance that we have all of this information brought on because of the intervention of benevolent spirits to try to bring us a message that would give us the liberation needed for our souls. Let's read the second part of the book, Heaven and Hell, where spirits in different conditions will come to us and tell us about them, about their preoccupation, about them and how they are attracted still to the matters of the world. There is one case there, I don't remember his name, but his whole preoccupation was with the wealth that he had left behind, because that was his preoccupation during life. More money, more riches, more growth and profit in his life. Material profit, that is. So this is why it's important for us to understand. Joanna de Ângelis will state that every great trials that batters humanity today, we can talk about wars, we can talk about epidemics. She mentions this, epidemics, violence, and disintegration of the human being, the loss of existential purpose attracts equally unhappy spirits who mingle with individuals and the masses, causing mayhem. Sound familiar with what's happening in our world today, doesn't it? So the same law of attunement that attracts these type of being also attracts the presence of noble spirits. This is why we needed to study about this. We talk about the presence of geniuses, wise souls, beings that come to promote our progress. Let's think about the scientists. Scientists that are actually working during a pandemic to try to bring a solution. Could they have been receiving this type of interference from noble spirits who wish to assist us as we go through the trial of a global pandemic? I believe they do. So what should we do? Well, according to Joanna de Ângelis, we must urgently change our personal behavior, generating vibrational fields conducive to practicing the good and supporting the health. When we do, generous spirits immediately come to our side to mentally and emotionally inspire us with ideas of beauty, pleasant imagery, states of euphoria, and successful realization. This is so beautiful. We brought here the word faith, charity, and love. We can't practice charity without being faithful, full of faith. We can't put forward the process of faith without having love guiding us and inciting us and providing us a wholesome view about life. So all of those aspects actually is going to assist us in this process of modifying our personal behavior. And little by little, we are going to understand without charity, there is no salvation. And of course, we're talking about the liberating process of our soul. So she will say, remain watchful for all situations that upset you. Be mindful of your heart and of your behavior. Nobody can do that but you. Of course, friends can point out they've been noticing that we've been a little weird, but before it gets to that point, we are able to discern about what is happening in the unfolds of our souls, of our mind. If there are forces, negative forces that conspire to throw us off, there is a whole other group of spirits who are there to promote us and assist us in this process of modifying our behavior. So we need to pay attention more to ourselves, our conduct. Be mindful of who we are, of what we think, of how we feel, and what we say. It is something that is an everyday type of activity. Make it our daily exercise as we promote the beautifying process of our soul. So, as we are reminded, we are responsible for the events in our lives in which we are involved. And on this manner, she will say that every time we make an effort to break free from every deplorable type of situations, occurrences, we are going to have more strength and therefore the courage to grow towards God. On this note, we are going to finalize simply in stating that the spirits, perturbing spirits, those who cause distress, chaos, mayhem, they watch the gates of our heart. They're there watchful to see if it opens, even just a little bit. And they're watching that. But Joanna de Ângelis will remind us that we need to make God's kingdom inside our heart the most valuable acquisition of our existence. And while we are doing there is no way that these gates of our hearts are going to open up to these type of spirits. On this note, dear friend, it is the last day of January, and we are still facing a pandemic and situations that are quite hard in our lives. Yet, let's remember about him, our Master Jesus. Right here, actually, I pointed to the wrong direction. And promote these ideas of love, the teachings that come from him, because we do have a responsibility. Duty is the responsibility that we have with ourselves and immediately towards our neighbor. May God be with us always. May Jesus guide us and inspire us. And may we always be watchful so that the presence of the benevolent spirits may not only be felt, but also heard, so we can get out of the position of being constantly assisted to the position of becoming assistants in the hands of the benevolent spirits. Much peace to all.
Thank you, my dear friend. And it's such a wonderful message, a wonderful reminder. Very important points for us to take care of our soul, to take care of our actions, to create more peace in our heart. Thank you very much for this beautiful study. Is it okay that we invite you to do a nice prayer for us?
Sure, Binya. Let's do.
Thank you.
Let's keep our minds and our hearts open and elevated to our Master Jesus, the one who is our model and guide for humanity, and feel the wholesome presence of the benevolent spirits that are with us right now. And although we know we are not at the Spiritist Center, we have come to understand that during the pandemic, our homes have become an extension of conscious living. We are invited to continue being aware and conscious of ourselves and our surroundings. And this is why at this moment, if we are quiet, we can feel their touch. We can feel the benevolent spirits working on us in the healing passes, cleansing our homes so that the psychic atmosphere is cleaner, healthier, and wholesome. And we can breathe the air of these energies from the benevolent spirits. We can feel it actually penetrating the very perispiritual pores of our soul. And we are grateful, so grateful, for having this family, this conscious living family, whether in the public lectures or the study groups. We know that we are connected through the ties of our hearts and our souls, where our fraternity towards one another only grows. And we know that while the storm is raging outside, our home is this blessed sanctuary where we are safe, where no vagabond can actually enter our home without our permission. And we are grateful that it is because of you, dear Jesus, and your missionaries of life, that we are protected, that we are made aware of all of this reality pertaining to our immortality. Bless each one of us and stay with us always, guiding and encouraging us as we continue our road towards our Father above. Thank you so much for this morning, and so be it.
Thank you, dear Andreia. God bless you.
God bless
For
you.
the wonderful message. You have a wonderful day. So, dear friends, we are finishing our study this morning and remind everyone that we have the gospel study every Sunday morning, 9:30 with Dave DeWalt and John. And also every other Wednesday, the study of the book Missionaries of Light. Join us in this course and let's study so we can learn it together to bring the peace of Jesus to our heart most time we can in our heart every day. Thank you and have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and hope to see everyone next Sunday. Thank you.